Our last speaker is going to be Mrs. Archana Mirajkar. Now she is going to talk about the science fiction stories in English written in India. Archana, born in Pune in 1969, she did masters in English. She is trained occupational therapist but got attracted to literature. She did postgraduate diploma in journalism. She worked in several newspapers in Delhi. She started writing short stories in Marathi. She also translated prominent Indian authors from other Indian languages into Marathi. She writes science fiction stories and novels. She is currently working in Canada Embassy at New Delhi. May I request Archana ji to start your speech?
Thank you, Dr. Deshpande, for that kind introduction. Chairman Dr. Bar Fonke, distinguished speakers of this panel, and dear audience. It is a great pleasure to be part of this International Science Fiction Conference in India. I would like to thank Dr. Bar Fonke, Dr. Shri Narhari, Shri A.P. Deshpande, and the organizers of this conference for the opportunity to speak at this forum. It was very illuminating to hear the speakers before me who spoke about the excellent science fiction being created by Indian writers writing in various Indian languages. Today, I will be speaking briefly about the science fiction by Indian writers writing in English. The first Indian writers of science fiction in English came from West Bengal in the 19th century. Shashi Chandar Dutt and Kailash Chandar Dutt wrote speculative fiction about India's future, whereas Begum Rokeya Hussein's Sultana's Dream has the beginnings of feminist science fiction in India. Despite these early beginnings, science fiction in India flourished more in the Indian languages than in English in the subsequent decades. It was only in the 1990s and early 2000s that we see a rise of English language science fiction in India. Notable among them were Amitav Ghosh's The Calcutta Chromosome, which won the Arthur C. Clarke Award in 1995, Ruchir Joshi's The Last Jet Engine's Laugh in 2001, Vandana Singh's Delhi in 2004, and Rimi Chatterjee's Signal Red in 2005. The latter part of this period also saw a number of new science fiction magazines in India, including the Calcutta-based Kalpa Vishwa and the Delhi-based Mithila Review. This period also saw more women writers entering the fray and the narratives shifting to more critical self-reflection. As we enter the third decade of the 21st century, there's a plethora of science fiction writing in India, with more and more young writers taking to this genre and bringing a variety to this somewhat neglected form of literature. R.S. Zirenge and Sayantan Mondal, writing in the International Journal of Innovative Knowledge Concepts, Volume 1, Issue 3, September 2015, have analyzed some of the common themes that recur in the writings of Indian science fiction writers writing in English. Let us take a look at these trends and see how they have sustained or diverged in the past 7 years since their paper was written. One of the first themes that they identify is socio-political impact of introducing technology in a less developed country. Some of the early writers speculated about this impact in their speculative fiction. For example, Samit Basu's Turbulence tackles the idea of superheroes with advanced powers who are not trusted by the people because they are not familiar with the technology they use. Dome Child by Shiv Ram Das is a dystopian novel where machines run the world. When a machine wants to commit suicide, it forces the protagonist to assist, making him the first human in a long time to have to think. Another theme identified is colonialism and post colonialism. This is a recurring theme in several Indian science fiction stories, which use allegories and metaphors to criticize colonial powers. For example, Amitav Ghosh's Calcutta Chromosome is a take on the problems of colonialism in a country that is yet to get out of its ill effects. Politics and nationalism is another theme. More and more writers are tackling this theme to comment on contemporary trends in politics. Anil Menon's 9 Billion Feet of the Beast is a speculative fiction that is a stern critic of nationalism. The writer points out the relationship between technology and the nation. Rimi Chatterjee's Signal Red is a futuristic tale where a right-wing government has abolished personal freedom in an Orwellian manner and any dissidence is opposed. Another example is Leela by Prayag Akbar, which was adapted into a controversial Netflix series. Here, a digitized future city is divided by walls into sections based on the perceived purity of the residents. The Wall by Gautam Bhatia is set in the city-state of Sumer, surrounded on all sides by a massive circular wall. The state has a perfectly regimented order where the society is strictly regulated, class and caste hierarchies are rigidly maintained, and dissent is extinguished with an iron fist. Ruchir Joshi's The Last Jet Engine Laugh is a political satire about a nation that has transformed so much that no one can recognize it. Future cities and future states is another one such theme. A closely related theme to the political allegories are stories where the writers imagine the high-tech future cities such as Delhi, Kolkata, or Mumbai. Writers like Ruchir Joshi, Samit Basu, Rimi Chatterjee, and many others have drawn wonderful pictures of a technologically advanced future of Indian cities. Yet another theme is feminism and gender inequality. This is a strong theme running through the stories of Indian women science fiction writers, uh, the theme of women's empowerment and the need for gender equality. Writers such as Vandana Singh, Manjula Padmanabhan, and Rimi Chatterjee speculate that despite technological advancement, real progress cannot be achieved if social equality is not attained. In her novel Ascendance, writer Sadhana Shankar imagines a future where men and women are at war with each other. The enmity reaches such proportions that women have to abandon their home planet to foil a war conspiracy by men. Escape by Manjula Padmanabhan imagines a womanless world where the last remaining female is little Miji. She is protected by three uncles who raise her in secrecy. In her collection, The Woman Who Thought She Was a Planet, Vandana Singh boldly puts the experience of Indian women at the center of her stories, even as she uses the scientific phenomena or abstract mathematical fantasies to reflect on their lived social realities. Works based on Indian mythology. The Guardians of the Halahal by Shatrujit Nath or Dev by Rishabh Dubey use mythological characters for new stories or try to provide a scientific explanation to mythological miracles. In addition to these common themes running through Indian science fiction in English, critics have noted a preoccupation with so-called Indian values in their writings. Suparno Banerjee notes that unlike Euro-American science fiction, Indian science fiction rarely presents an expansionist universe and colonizing missions, probably because India was a destination of such colonizing missions. He also argues that the Asians in Indian science fiction stories, coming in a variety of forms such as clones, cyborgs, artificial intelligence, mutants, and alien creatures, are based upon projections of a number of social alienations, ranging from the alienation of the subaltern citizen from the state to the alienation of an immigrant in a new culture. Now let us look at the new themes and cutting-edge science appearing in stories of today. Cutting-edge scientific developments in recent years, changing lifestyles because of social media and the pandemic, have given rise to new themes and novel forms of storytelling in the realm of Indian science fiction in English. Take the example of Chosen Spirits by Samit Basu, where the protagonist Joy is a reality controller living in New Delhi. Her job is to control the live stream or flow of popular and controversial influencers or flow stars as they are known in the story. In Aliens in Delhi by Sami Ahmed Khan, a reptile-like alien race known as Q decides to invade Earth. Their mode of attack is to take over smartphones and turn people into reptiles. In her science fiction works, Manjula Padmanabhan hopes for an India with feminist ideals and tackles the problems of the subalterns. In her novella Of Love and Other Monsters, Vandana Singh tackles a psychological theme where the protagonist loses his memory after a fire, but he develops a unique ability to sense, manipulate, and weave people's minds. The author deftly tackles the boundaries of gender, of individual and collective consciousness, and of thinking and doing. Clones have featured in some of fascinating works by Indian writers. Priya Sarukkai Chabria's Generation 14 and its sequel Clone feature a clone that is the 14th copy of an original person. The story is about what happens when the clone begins to mutate by collating memories or visitations, as Chabria calls them. My own novel, All the Way Home, tries to address some fundamental questions, such as the origin of life and the connections between space and time and human relationships. The Golan's Book of South Asian Science Fiction, Volume 2, edited by Tarun Saint and published last year, contains several stories by Indian writers such as Medha Singh, Tashan Mehta, Arjun Raj Gain, and Manjula Padmanabhan, besides writer writing in other Indian languages such as Jayant Narikar, whose story I have translated for this volume. In conclusion, I would say that the Indian science fiction writing in English has now blossomed into a full-fledged genre. Indian science fiction has now reached a stage where it has attracted international attention. With new writers emerging in this area and more translations taking place from Indian languages, this genre is set for phenomenal growth in the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Archana. Indian science fiction writers are attracting the attention of the foreign writers, is the key word of your speech. Thank you.